This is MP Cards and Games, and sorry for not doing any videos during the KC Cup. It was just, I was so busy trying to grind out, and then I had other things, and I did have a video pre-recorded before the KC Cup about what decks I thought would be good, but then I realised there was other decks that were also good, and that I just underestimated, plus I didn't like the quality of that video. So now we're just going to check our results. Okay, we have, I'm really happy that I've made it into the qualifiers, the 2018 World Qualifiers for Korea, Taiwan, and Oceania, special qualifiers. So my goal was to at least get in the 500 rank in the KC Cup. Today I'll show what decks I used to get there and how much and what I thought of the KC Cup, but we'll also be picking up our rewards. So our ranking ended up just being over the 500th of the KC Cup, Oceania. I'm just gonna say Oceania. I know it's Korea and Taiwan as well, but it'll take all day. But we only just made it. I forgot what Timmy came. I know Timmy went okay, but he didn't go the best during the KC Cup at the moment because he had a lot of disconnects. Most of the time I was playing the PC version, and any time I didn't play the PC version I constantly lost. Not because of DC losses, but just kept on losing. Also a popular YouTuber, Decades / Duel Links Meta, he came first in the KC Cup, so good for him. And hopefully I will get to Worlds. I'm not expecting to, but I hope I will. So now we'll get our rewards. So we've got a event iron. We've got our tickets, which we can exchange. There's a few decent cards in the exchange here, but not really any good farmable not any major farmable cards compared to last KC Cup. Even though I didn't play last KC Cup, you could get Union Attack in here. This KC Cup you can't. You can only get the normal cards that you could get from the normal rank duels. So probably the best ones, in my opinion, would be the Solemn Scolding, because you just can't get that in normal methods unless you get it from this. This other new card, even though it's not really, they both don't really have farmable purposes. Econ, that's probably what I'm going to pick up, but Econ is good in quite a few farmable decks. Also maybe Legend of Yatagarasu, since it is a prismatic, and probably Red Eye Spirit or Insight, because you can have farming decks with them, even though they did get hit, but I'm not going to get them because I've already got my 3 copies and Spirit got hit. So yeah, I'm going to exchange that soon. I also get my rare ticket. It isn't as, the rare pool isn't as good, and I'll probably only get the Transmodify card. Unless I've got 3 copies. I think I may already have 3 copies, so I might just wait till next season. But I'll just see what I haven't gotten that, since that isn't really as big of a worry. We get our biggest thing, our invitation, and we're in Group A in the World Championship qualifiers. And we've got a few gems, but probably the plaque, the entry, and the SR ticket was the major things. The thing about my region was you didn't have to go as hard as somewhere from Japan or America. But I was actually higher ranked during the middle of the KC Cup than what I ended up being, because I had some very bad luck at the end of it, or in the middle of it after. But now we'll just exchange our tickets. We'll only exchange our prismatic one for the moment, and we will exchange that for, I do have a playset of Econ, that's why I was a bit worried about wanting to get my Econs. Like, I haven't got this card, but I don't really want it, and I could just get it as a normal ticket, and I've still got a few of the other tickets. So we'll get our Econ. This would have also been interesting. just because I have seen it being used in farm decks. But yeah, I'll just get the Econ, just because it has good competitive play as well. So get the Econ, then we'll start running it in all of our decks, or most of our decks anyway. So we pick up the iron as well. I might use that for my normal iron, normal battle screen thing now. I'll show you. I'll start off with one of the decks that gave me quite a lot of success during the KC Cup, and I didn't know this would be that good because I kept on losing with Cyber Angels, like in round 2. I'll just say the round 2 decks first, then I might just go over one or two little round 1 decks I had. And I do have some dual replays that I will eventually show. Might show in this video, it just depends on if I have time. But we used Maya with Aroma Strategy, and we were playing Hazy Flame Horus. So there was cards I was missing from this, which wasn't the best variant, because I was missing cards from this. But it still got me a lot more success than some of the other decks, and at one point I was up to 13,000 and something, but then I went on my phone, had a few games, and kept on losing. And the DC losses that happened throughout the event, for some reason when I got them on the PC version, it was just ended up being a draw, and not the auto loss ended up being a draw, not a loss. So I never lost points from that, and then I never got an auto loss on my phone because I only played about 13 duels on the phone, and those were all the duels I lost all my points in. I did get like one normal connection error though, that's a usual connection error for some reason. And the only added in card we eventually put in was a Magical Mallet, just because we kept on bricking with like the Phoenix. We thought it might have been, it might have been good against cards that destroy, because there are quite a few that destroy, and also to make this guy have a lot more attack than if we're using this. But I probably should have taken out Phoenix. I wish I had more sergeants. I would have used more and probably taken out him and that sort of stuff. But I did like how this could spam a lot, and it wasn't too bad against burn either. But I'm probably just going to add a glossy, yeah, that prismatic Econ. Then the one floodgate, I understand it's pretty expensive, same as the mirror wall and the wall of D, but I've already gotten those. So that was the first deck, and it got me quite a lot of success. And I did enjoy it. It was better than playing Cyber Angels a lot of the time. I did play a few other little decks when I kept on losing and just got really, really annoyed. But I'm really just showing the major decks right now that I played. That's more round 1. We also played standard Cyber Angels. We had a few little techs here and there. Like, I don't have Cosmic, so I still run the anti-magic arrows. I was originally not running this, but like I realized the more ritual spells, the merrier. We also ended up running the Floodgate because I like that extra Bikini stop and other monsters that it could stop as well. So yeah, this is the Cyber Angel deck. It had Restart. I do have Mind Scam, but I don't really like playing Mind Scam with Cyber Angels because with the nerf it's far more bricky. And like even with Restart I sometimes bricked, but I like that option if I did brick, which I usually look like I did if I didn't restart. I like the option of restarting and not bricking as much. I don't have 2 Sonic Birds or Senjus where I'd run them, so that's another reason why this variant's a bit more bricky. So I do like that restart play, and like I see why people play Mind Scam, but I think it isn't the best option just because of bricks. I do love to see my opponent's back row, but I also don't like to brick more than Monarchs, which you'd get that if you played the real Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. You would get that reference. And then I'll show some of the decks I'm more played early rounds, like round 1. I didn't actually get to level 20 round 1, but I was already king of games last season, so it didn't really bother me. I just didn't have time. But during some of the earlier parts of round 1, I was playing this Mind Scan Red Eyes variant. It was just like a fun variant, and I was trying to just level up Pegasus, but it ended up being okay, but there was only so long it could do well for. And it would have been better if I'd had more Gozukis and that sort of stuff, but I don't own it any more Gozukis, and maybe if I had another Red Eye Zombie. With the URs, I don't actually have any of my UR tickets left, and this is the KC Cup tickets. I haven't actually got it yet since the KC Cup isn't finished, but you won't get prismatic ones from UR tickets, but I'd recommend for cards to get with your URs are Gandora, the Dragon of Destruction, since there's a really good ability with Mokuba that allows you to summon this if you're playing a Red Eyes deck. Also, I'd recommend Dark Flare Dragon, just because it's an event only card and isn't always there to get. Most of these cards you don't need, but they're just like there. Also, maybe a Twin Barrel Dragon, since that's leaving the card trader soon. And the last card I'd probably recommend is like a Ryuku Field, which was really good when the game first came out. But this is MP Cards and Games signing out. Again, this wasn't the cheapest variant, just because we've got the floodgates and the mirror walls, but you could always make it cheaper. But again, this wasn't a budget one, and I have showed other Red Eyes. I do think Red Eyes Beatdown is probably better than Red Eyes Mind Scan, but it was also just to level up Pegasus as well. And then the deck I played more round 2, because I'd actually ended up getting a Saphira. Only one, but I ended up playing Saphira Cyber Angels. I liked the draw support it gave you and all the other random abilities, but it did end up bricking a little bit too much for my liking. And this card's great, but I was running less of this because I was running Saphira, and I felt like that really down the deck a lot, and it could have just had so much more potential. Restart again, I wouldn't have played Mind Scan in this variant, or then it would have been a brick fest. And Cyber Angels are a good deck. I was playing standard Cyber Angels originally in round 2, but then when I got Saphira and I saw really cool combos, I decided let's play it. Meant round 1. I decided to play it round 1. I played at the beginning of round 2, but it just wasn't that effective. I didn't really play much else. Like, I was going to play a bit of the Mokuba Monster Morph deck, but I ended up not really playing it. I think I played one game in round 1. I'll show a few of the replays, and I'll give my opinions on the Esperoba event another time, but I'll show some of the replays, and then I'll give a verdict on the KC Cup. I've actually made it to King of Games. I didn't actually know it because I was only at Legend 1, but then after the KC Cup it's put me to King of Games, but I guess how many wins you won in the KC Cup round 2 have put you up to how many you would have won in ranked anyway, so you don't have to do both. So I'm now at King of Games again, which is really good that I'm at it for the second time in a row. And now we will just finding them. So I didn't have any Cyber Angel replays, but you've probably seen enough Cyber Angels. So I think I've got, I might only have one replay. I thought I had saved 2, but I guess it's only one replay save. So this is playing the Horus Neff, I think it, Finks deck. Yeah, this is the Horus Finks deck. So yeah, it was fun to play that deck, but I did One thing I thought about the KC Cup was it burns you out a bit because of how much you had to play to keep up with everybody else, and then when you tried to keep up with everyone else, you would eventually lose a lot. And the meta wasn't too bad. One deck I highly underestimated was the Cyberstein deck, but like I did already know some of the combos it could do. And it still blew me out of the water though. But it wasn't. It was a fair enough match. Because if they bricked, they'd brick real hard. But I thought, for me, the DC errors weren't. The auto losses weren't that bad because they weren't auto losses; they were auto draws. But I do feel like the PC version was rigged, so the PC version would not give you auto losses. If someone has played the PC version and it did give them a auto loss, well, I'm sorry for you, but for me it didn't give me an auto loss, it gave me an auto draw. So I feel like only the phone version was getting rigged in that behalf, which they should have they shouldn't have released the Steam version and allowed these connection errors to happen during a big event. They should have thought about that before the event. As you see, I'm doing an econ play just so I could beat over it and get Horus level 8, which sometimes it's not the best play ever, but it wasn't a totally bad play against Ancient Gears, since if they make a golem, you're pretty well screwed in this deck because your biggest beat is the 3000 Horus, so you want to get up to at least their standards, and it makes them a lot harder to activate any of their spells. But also, another thing I thought about the KC Cup Round 2. Round 1 was really well with the gems and everything, but one thing I thought was fairly incompetent of the KC Cup Round 2 was how you could lose everything. Like in most other duels in any of the events that they do, or any of the normal rank seasons, you can only go down so far. And I think I think they should have done that. You could lose 5,000 DP, but no more than that. So let's say you're at 10,000, you could only go down to, or you couldn't go down any further than that. But if you're at 11,000, you could go at to 10,000, and then if you're at 9,000, you could go all the way down 5,000, but not all the way down to the beginning, especially with the disconnect errors. So yeah, that's a view of my Hazy Flame, one of my Hazy Flame duels before I put Magical Mallet. I did have another replay, but I think it might have just gone somewhere, like I just lost it. I also played one duel that was really, really weird, where I played like this really bad deck, but I somehow won, and I couldn't believe I'd actually won it. Not the actual duel, but I know I still have. I might have the replay, but I'll just show you this deck I used for one game KC Cup, and it was even round 2 that I somehow won it in, and it was literally this really shoddy deck that I didn't know I was actually versing the KC Cup with, because I was just leveling up Jaden, and then I accidentally clicked KC Cup and then duel when I was just trying to see what my ranking was. So yeah, this is like, it has a few decent cards, but like it shouldn't really keep up to the meta. I think I was versing, like it's even more sad. The guy was playing like he was playing like Glad Beast, and that's a good deck, and he lost to this. I do have a Glad Beast deck. It's not finished yet, and I didn't play it in the KC Cup. But yeah, I feel like the few things that could have been done, and also one thing I didn't fully like about this KC Cup was that round 1 I understand about finding anyone in any region, but with round 2, since it had regional things, like where it went like, oh, you can become this rank in your region, I think you should have only been able to fight people or duel people in your region instead of dueling people from like whoop whoop whoop. And I ended up dueling way more people than what I ended up dueling in my region than in other regions. And like in a real Yu-Gi-Oh event, I wouldn't expect to somehow duel 20 people from America, but yet no one from my own country. Or if you live in America, you wouldn't expect to duel 50 people from Japan or something, and then not duel and duel like one person from America or something. So yeah, that was another thing I was a little bit like not fully happy about. That I think could have been run better, and I hope it is in the world qualifiers, because I don't want to verse like these people who come from countries where like Australia and New Zealand aren't poor, but we don't. It's been proven we don't invest as much money into duel links unless you're someone like Timmy who's like the world champ, and especially because I'm a free to play player, and then versing all these, because the Japanese, they like playing Saki decks, and I versed heaps of them, and it was like a bit annoying. Not being racist or anything. And there were quite a lot of different players, and I feel like some from poorer countries ended up losing a lot more. Like, I ended up winning against people in proclaimed poorer countries a lot more than the ones that were in the richer countries, which I know that helped me, but like, I feel like it isn't fair for those people either, who just can't afford to play the game as much. And also, I think there should have been a time limit or how many duels you could do within a day of the KC Cup, because it was more about how many duels you were playing and winning than how many duels you were winning in. Because at a normal Yu-Gi-Oh event, you couldn't do like 50 duels, and then that guy could only do 10 unless you won, or unless you've, like, let's say you have day 1, day 2. Day 1, you play 50 duels, this other guy plays 10. You make it into round 2, but for some reason he doesn't. But usually the round roulette is you only have 10 duels, so they're not going to make it that one dude can play heaps of duels and then another dude can only play very little until day 2, because that guy hasn't made it high enough. But I feel like they should have put a cap on how many duels you could do at least every 12 hours, because for people like me who have to go to school, and for other people who have work, it's pretty unfair for